What's poppin', people? Tetrafolium. I revealed my eyes for you. In fact, it's getting a little hot in here. I might as well take off my Letterman jacket from Agency University, or should I say L'Agence University, class of 2023. Ah, there we go. How's it going, everyone? This is Tetrafolium, aka Agent Tetra, and I want to report to you all that I have done it. Finally, I've made it to #1 on the ADV OU ladder. Don't go looking for me right now, because I stopped playing on that account and I've decayed all the way down to like 1750. But needless to say, I was there. I saw the top of the mountain, and you know what? It's glorious. Okay, enough of my blunder larp here. Let's listen to some... Yeah, there we go. Some Xenoblade 2 music. Shoutouts to Nintendo Direct that just came out earlier today, at least as far as when I'm recording this. And they decided they're going to re-release the whole trilogy of the Xenoblade Chronicles series on Nintendo Switch 2. And they're going to add a little bit of extra content just to make me pissed that I'm going to have to spend another $70 a pop per game to have to replay them all. But you know what? It's okay, because it's a great game, so I may just do that anyway. No, I'm not. Actually, I'll think about it. I don't have Xenoblade Definitive Edition, so maybe I will get that one. All right, enough yapping. Let's talk about this team a little bit here. But actually, it's not going to be so much about this team. I will tell you there's a Swampert on it, and Swampert #5 Pokemon. Some have said #3. Some have said #2. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it is a really good Pokemon, and I haven't talked about Swampert in quite a while. In fact, I haven't really redone any videos on any Pokemon that I've done thus far, but I think I might start doing some of them. Like, for example, Tyranitar. There's more to Tyranitar than just the Boatar set. Celebi, there's more than just the one attack set. And I know that they get sprinkled in kind of throughout some of these other teams, which is why I don't tend to want to do these Pokemon. Like, you know, Skarmory, yeah, it's going to be on a lot of the teams. So do I need to make a dedicated Skarmory video? Probably, because there are some cool Skarmory sets that don't just fit on every team. And that's what we do here at the Tetrafolium YouTube channel, which you haven't subscribed to yet or liked the video for. Come on, man. How are you going to be an agent if you don't stay with the game here? Support your fellow agents. But speaking of supporting us here and content and all of that, I do have a question for you guys. Since I will probably have an official say on the next ADV viability rankings, assuming that we do one for 2026, which, I mean, I feel like a lot of things have changed over the past year. This metagame has evolved a lot, so I would imagine we probably will have one here. What hot takes do you want me to consider for when I construct my own viability rankings? If you're a believer in a Pokemon like Electabuzz, and you say Tetrafolium, you gotta rank that joint. Maybe I will. Maybe I will, only because you said so nicely. But let's get into the discussion here. So, I'm gonna bury the lead a little bit here. I'm not gonna lie to you. I want to talk about a little bit about what I think it takes to be the #1 on ladder. And I'm not here to tell you I'm the #1 guru, and if you follow my advice, you will always be #1. I'm not even guaranteeing that I could get to #1 again. But I do think that you have to have some prerequisite experience and skill to have the capacity to get there, and then you just want to put yourself in a position where the luck goes your way, all right? So some days are definitely easier than others. This is what the ladder looked like when I topped it. Of course, I'm Agency Pyramids. If you don't know that, you haven't watched enough of my videos. And The number 2 on ladder was only 1803. In fact, at the time that I got here, there were only 2 players above 1800 elo, which is a sort of benchmark that a lot of players are striving to get to. A few days later, this is what the ladder looked like. Okay, realistically, I still would have been number 5 had I gotten this elo on that day. And realistically, I do think I could get to number 4 here. I could get to 1810, I'm pretty sure, just win one more game. 1820s, 1830s, if I'm having a good day, I might be able to do that. 1945, I don't think I could do that right now. Just putting that out there. Shoutouts to COTH100, who I do know who that is, but I'm going to gatekeep that knowledge from you because you should be a member of the community to learn that kind of stuff. Amazing player. 90% GXC is astronomical. And yeah, I don't know if I would ever get there. I mean, look at my GXC. I wouldn't have even qualified for Speed Pass Rex with that. So, yeah. But let's use this as a sort of point of comparison here, you know? You don't need to have crazy super high GXC and Glicko or whatever to get a high elo, all right? That's kind of like don't get caught up on this. Look at this example. This person, number 2 on ladder, 1814, who got a higher elo than I did here, 59 GXE. That means they are only slightly better than a coin flip odds to beat the average player. Now, are you realistically gonna get there naturally if you're like a career 59% GXE player? Probably not. Probably not gonna climb quite that high. There's a reason why there's a concentration around like the higher 70s and like sometimes 80s when you go up the ladder. It's because you do have to win pretty consistently to get an elo that high. But you know, this gamer here, they just play a bunch of BS teams and they are fine losing games in the 1400s, the 1300s, and then they just got serious, played a serious team. Well, actually, it's Seldenami. I'm not sure how serious the team really was, but a serious enough team, and they're a good enough gamer that they did get here. And in fact, if they were playing on the day that I got to number 1 on ladder, they possibly would have been number 1. So you can't really discount that, all right? But yes, you're going to need to play the game, and you're going to need to play some good teams. We're going to talk about that slightly in more depth later. But I want to talk a little bit about what I did here, sort of to temper your expectations, and like what it took for me to get to the point where I was at least able to put myself into the position to get there. So I started playing ADV Ladder around September of 2024, thanks to my good buddy Pez, who gave me permission to show this amazing picture of him. It's not as high resolution as maybe I would have hoped, but great guy. He's getting married, so congratulations to him. And that was because he was sending me a bunch of links to Revival tournament commentaries for ADV Revival 2 when that tournament was going on. He was like, yo, you got to see this. This is crazy. And I was like, all right, let me see this. And I saw players doing basically the most basic things you could even imagine in an ADV game. And I was like, whoa, this is epic. So I had to play. Yeah, you may think like, oh, well, you know, a lot of these new players, they get in because of Jim. And I'm not going to lie. I knew who Jim was. And I was watching a lot of his ADV videos when I started playing the ladder, but I didn't really feel motivated per se to actually like play the game until my buddy Pez here put me on. So it's all your fault, buddy. But shout outs to Jim Cool as well. If it wasn't for him, his influence on the community and his sort of influence on the revival commentary scene, then perhaps I wouldn't have been here. And as much as I love Roaming the Wastes, I'm gonna switch the song up because the song doesn't have as cool a loop as I sort of was hoping for. Let's go for Kingdom of Uriah. Shoutouts to our Australian viewers here, whose accent was used to influence the people of Uriah, and that's very prescient because, of course, Jimothy Cool, we're talking about him. He's Australian, as far as I know. So, yeah. My first ADV video that I posted was on the 13th of April, 2026. Don't ask why I write the date that way. It's just how I've been writing it since I started my job. So I can't stop. Yeah, this is not really that long after I started playing the game. Is this because I thought I was really good and because I was like, oh, my videos will be of value to the metagame, and like you should listen to this dude who's only been playing for how many months would that be? 6 or 7 months. There you go. No, I just had a team that I liked that had Flygon on it, and I did like some alterations to the EVs to satisfy some sort of matchup that I was running into on ladder, and I wanted to make a video about it, basically. And I was like, well, that was a lot of fun. I want to make another video, so I made a video on Metacham, and then I made a video on Raikou and Porygon 2, and then we just kept making videos from there on out. And a part of it is definitely like, oh, I put the Flygon video out. I had some other videos from my Draft League stuff, which we don't really do it anymore. We might have to bring it back. Who's to say? But I like, you know, obviously nobody watched that. Like maybe the people who were in my Draft League would watch it, but like realistically, like who cares, right? But I did get a lot more views on that Flygon video. I think it was something like 100 within a week. And I was like, that's crazy, because I've never seen my videos go to triple digits before. So I was like, maybe what if I post another video and see how that goes? And it also got about 100 views. And I was like, whoa. So I just kept posting and making videos because I like to see the number go up. I'm a mathematician by vocation. So, of course, you know that I like to see those numbers. So yeah, and it's been really fun since then. And I would attribute this a lot to my ability to improve in the game. If I wasn't making videos, I wouldn't have met as many people as I did. And if I didn't meet those people, I wouldn't have learned so much from them. I wouldn't have been as inclined to get into things like tournaments, etc., etc. And I probably would still be like 1600-ish spamming teams that are like mediocre-ish and not really understanding that much. Maybe I play every like now and then, like once every other week or something, I don't know. And wouldn't have got much better at the game at all. And we'll talk again about the frequency at which I play the game now and how you might have to play the game if you want to get as good as this. And frankly, you should aim to be even higher. So I did play in some tournaments like ADV Cup 2025, ADV Cup 2026 signups right now. Hopefully, if this video comes out soon, you'll maybe be able to participate. And I think it was Old Money Open 2. I don't recall how many Old Money Opens had existed up to that point. I think it was the second one. I did not do very well in those tournaments. I won a set in each and then lost immediately in the second set and flamed out. Like, what are you gonna do? So yeah, I was not great at the game. like barely had experience, frankly. Even though I had posted some videos, it's like whatever. You beat a couple 1400s on ladder, make a video about it, and you think, oh, I'm the hot shit. But like, you realize that the pond is a lot bigger. But yeah, this is yeah. Oh, there's my Flygon video, by the way. Shout outs to it. Somehow over 2,000 views now, I think. If we can get 400 more views on it, it will be a more viewed video than Colin's video on it. If you don't know who Colin is, then don't worry about it. But think about that. I bet Colin would be beside himself that some mid-ladder crapmon guy has that. But yeah, you know, I've come a long way since then. I do think that video was really fun to make. I improved my presentation a little bit and my game knowledge a little bit. So if you're going to go back and watch it, do so with a grain of salt. But let's talk about some more success that I've had. My first 1700, which was also top 100 on the ladder, I got on the 17th of June while I was at the beach. It was kind of funny. I think that was around the time that my Ludicolo video came out, but it was associated with the team that I used in this video about Salamence. The most polarizing Pokemon in ADV. I don't think that is even close to true anymore in June of 2026. If we're being honest, it's probably Blissey. But yeah, no, Salamence's consensus pretty good. If you ask players who play the game a lot. So yeah, shortly after that, I was able to make it to top 32 of ADV Revival 3, in which you had to win 7 out of 9 of your pools sets, which was not easy to do. Only about 48, I think. Like a little less than 50 players were able to make it onto the bracket stage. And I did not get the bye, so I had to beat somebody else to make it to the top 32. I eventually lost to the winner of that tournament, Prince. I took him to a game 4 because we tied game 2, which was kind of surreal. You don't see that happen that often in ADV. I mean, it's not like super duper rare, but I can't imagine that there were more than 5 game 4 sets in that revival run by all players. So yeah, pretty rough one. I'm still kicking myself. I could have beat him certainly in that game 2 where we drew, and then I could have just won the set outright 2-0. Would have been top 16. Who knows how far I could have made it? Probably not that much further. Let's be real. But yeah, and then I was also able to win Rookie of the Season for a team tournament called Mushi League. It was their 20th season. And I ended up with a record, I think, of 6-2. So that was pretty good. So I was feeling myself there for sure. But yeah, nowadays I will usually win more tournament sets, or at least more sets in a tournament than I lose. But I haven't really had that much major success outside of these. I made it to top 32 of Winter Seasonal. I made it, I think, also to top 32 of the recent Global Championship for ADV, which I think is less impressive, even more so than Winter Seasonal. And yeah, I mean, we're just stuck at 32, man. We're going to have to figure out how to break our limits here. Granted, tournaments there's a little bit of bracket luck. There's a little bit of, like, you could have just a really bad set, really unlucky, and then go out a lot sooner than you ought to have. So, like, what are you going to do? But it's not about the results, I don't think. It's about the process. So what can you do to improve? Well, I'm going to tell you the same thing that literally everybody else says. Play the game. So, as of right now, I have played over 8,000 games of ADV. Do I think that you need to play that many before you can sniff like a top 1 rating, a bracket appearance in ADV Revival, a 6-2 record in a uh like a low slot in a team tournament? No, I don't think you have to play quite that much, but let's be honest here. If you've only played 200 games, which it does sound like a lot, but frankly it's not, like you can't expect to be like that good, right? I mean, yeah, like there's so much to learn, especially about the ADV metagame, and you're not going to be able to just do it simply by like watching people play or reading forum posts and all that. Like, yes, those things are going to help you for sure, and I think that if you do those things, then you will be better off for it. However, the in-game experience, I think, is the most valuable thing. Now, that doesn't mean spam games. If I play 8,000 games, I'll finally be as good as Tetrafolium. I mean, you might be even better somehow. But no, you have to think about the game as well. You have to look at your replays. You have to consider, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Can I improve the way that I play the game? Does my team have to do something specific that I'm not usually doing in certain matchups? This is like things that you'll have to dial in on and figure out for yourself here. And I think it's certainly easier when you do these things here to win consistently. You'll want to use good teams, which frankly is pretty easy to do. Just take a team that you've seen somebody else do really well with, especially if it's a very like standard team, you know, using the typical Pokemon that you would see, your Tyranitar, your Skarmory, your Swampert, your Gengar, Skarmory. I already said Skarmory, use it again. Put 2 of them on your team if you can. Actually, honestly, that would be a pretty good team. Yeah, those are the thing. That's what I would recommend to you. There are plenty of resources for sample teams. If you're getting bored with the sample teams, I'll probably say, like, sometimes a sign that you don't have the dedication to get that high. Sorry to say that. I didn't want to be the one to have to break that to you, but like, there are also a lot of great teams that are not on the samples that you can find in people's team dumps or rate my team posts on Smogon. Certainly you can look there. If you see a YouTuber using a team that is functionally good, yeah. But I will say, hedge towards the sample teams, because if you're a less experienced player, it might be difficult for you to tell which teams are actually really that good and which teams are just being played by players who are good enough to make them look good. It's a little bit of a strange sort of concept there, but it makes a lot more sense the more you know about the tier. So yeah, that's my recommendation. First of all, is to like be a little less stubborn. You know, maybe let's hold off on the Arcanine teams until we like figure out how we're supposed to play around TSS. Let's put the Roselia back in the back pocket and like use Skarmory until we can hit a reasonable goal for ourselves, you know? The second is to make good plays, and this is really hard to do. I'm not gonna lie. You could see top level tournament games like SPL level, and sometimes you can find a play or two where you're like, that person did not make a good play. They were trying to read something way out of the stratosphere, and they end up losing the game because they just ceded way too much momentum on that turn. And like, yeah, that's for sure. But like, also, if you're somebody who is, you know, switching from your, uh, let's say, Suicune to Swampert, to beat Celebi, that's not a good play. I'm just going to tell you. I mean, sometimes it works out, and there are maybe contexts where we could argue that it actually is a good play. But like, turn two, Dave went to Celebi to beat down on your Suicune. You're switching Swampert there because you're like, oh, it's got Ice Beam. I can hit the Celebi. Like, no, it's not a good play. Yeah, and you're not going to know that until you make that play. Well, I mean, maybe you can figure it out in other ways, but you're going to have to make plays like that, and then your opponent's going to destroy you, and you're going to say, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. And then think about what you can do instead so that you don't end up making that play again. And this is hard. It takes a lot of time, and I think the most effective way to, like, build these good habits is to play a game, look at what you did, and say, that play right there was not good. What could I have done to not do that again? And you'll find that you will end up in that situation again. Somebody else is going to use Celebi on the ladder. So maybe you're like, okay, instead I'm going to go to Skarmory, get my spikes up, and then we can go to Swampert later in the game, things like that. And of course, there are things that make it a lot more fun and a lot easier to play the game. I think if you join a community, particularly on Discord, because Pokemon doesn't have or at least ADV doesn't have like a real IRL scene. It's a little unfortunate. I'm kind of envious of like the Smash community and their ability to have that, but realistically, we don't. The best we can do is go online and find other people who also like to play Smogon, or at least the ADV format online. And Discord, I think, is probably your best bet to really interact with people. I will put a link to some of the Discords that I'm in. Sometimes I'm not as active in some of them as maybe you might hope I am, but I'll put them in order of like the ones that I'm most active in down. If you want to join those, and I encourage you to do so because it's a lot easier to stay with this game and to want to play it when you have friends in the community who play it, and you can make friends quite easily. Just talk about the game. People love this. This is what I live for. So, I mean, as sad as that might sound. So, yeah. You want to try solid teams. Once again, I recommend that you use the sample teams as much as you can. And if you're going to deviate, use teams that you've seen like win tournament games and looked very solid to play. Yeah. And I think that also fun is subjective, as I've talked about before, as BKC talked about before. I think he stole my idea. No, I'm joking. Artists are always ripping each other off, and it's actually how you make very consistent artwork. A very polished artwork is by iterating off of each other. And I can't prove that BKC watches my videos, but if he did, that would make my day. So, yeah. Fun, it is subjective. If what's fun to you is having a 50-50 chance to win a game using Barboach on your team, then, like, I'm not going to police that. Certainly do that. Have fun with that. But personally, for me, I have the most fun when I have a realistic chance to win the game, because for me, winning feels better than losing. And that's not the only thing about the game, but if you're not playing to win, I think it can get boring to a degree. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to feel that way. Certainly play the game however you want to. But if you think you might feel that way, then, just try playing with some solid teams that give you a better chance to win. So yeah, there you go. And then playing in tournaments is also really fun. For the most part, I've had really good experience in tournaments, and in fact, the first tournament that I played, the first opponent who ever beat me in a tournament, which was not very far into that tournament, he said like, "Hey, like, do you want to get on a Discord call real quick?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And I was a little mad because I lost my tournament, and I was like, "Oh, I want to play more," but he was like, he's like, "Oh, I've seen a couple of your videos, and I think what you're doing is really good, and I think you are a good player, and you're gonna be doing something someday." And I was like, "Damn, that really hit me. That hit me hard, honestly." So thank you to Dancing Along for having that conversation with me. I will always remember that, and I will always appreciate that. But yeah, and plenty of people that I played in tournaments, I have talked to them beyond our tournament set. We've even helped each other like figure out what to do in other tournament sets in other tournaments, or maybe we've been teammates on certain tournament teams. Like, you build familiarity with the community, and like, you'll find that most of the people here are really nice and are really cool. But enough of that. We're gonna get to what you came to this video for, which is my top 5 favorite anime. All right, so number 1 for me is Code Geass. I think that Lelouch is a very, very compelling protagonist. I love how active he is in the story, and I love how, despite the immense power that he has, as well as the support system that he has being so strong, and how smart he is and all that jazz, he still messes up, because what he is doing, or what he is attempting to do, I'm not going to get too deep into what the plot is really hard. And like, you need so much to go right to pull it off, and like, he hits every snag. He has to sacrifice so much, and the ending is fantastic, that's for sure. Also, giant robot fights, I mean, what can you say, man? That gets me going. Unsurprisingly, my number 2 is 86, another mecha anime where they're fighting giant robots here. So a little bit more steeped into socio-political commentary, and if you're not that into like these political dramas, I don't know if I would recommend these two, but if you are, and I am, it's my jam. 86 is beautiful, and I love the world and how it is presented to us, especially in the first half. At least it's season 1, right? It's only one season. It's split into 2 halves. Yeah. Love that part. The second core as well, or second half, also great. Loses a tiny bit of steam, but it's got such a good conclusion there that it really brings it back for me. So second favorite there. Third favorite, Mob Psycho 100, from the creator of One Punch Man. The humor definitely stays with this, but I love Shigeo, or as he's known by his nickname, Mob, in this show. He is probably the best protagonist of any of the anime that I've watched. I love his coming of age story throughout this show, and I think that especially seasons 2 and 3 just stick the landing and are like pay off so much of what's going on here. And I love how earnest a lot of the characters are in the show, especially Mob. Fantastic character. Okay, I think this bit has gone on long enough. Just so you guys know, these are my next 2 favorite anime. We won't talk about them too much, but we're going to move on to the team. This is Legent Beach Club. I have told myself, if I get a team to 1800 or do something really cool with it, then I'll give it a name. And I have named some of these teams that I put into videos before, which is like all right, whatever. Ratfish Knishes is a funny name for a Houndoom team. But, like, realistically, what do I think about that team as in my mind? I think about that as all in on Snorlax Triple Trapper, which is, like, a very, like, uninspired name. This, though, I'm sticking with it. This is the Legence Beach Club, and I'm only going to know it as Legence Beach Club from now on. If you call it Lead Curse Pert Magneton, I'm not going to, like, I'm going to say, what is that? I'm going to say Legence Beach Club. That's what this is. So, there we go. I have made a Rate My Team post about this team, which I will link in the description. If you want to know more about the specifics of this team, about why I chose the particular Pokemon that I did, about what the EVs are all about, which, I haven't done that level of analysis for my other teams. I've done that at least for the featured Pokemon, but I'm going to let that post do the talking for me, in part because, one, I've already put in so much work to that. I want you guys to read it. And two, I want you guys to like it because I want that reaction score. So go ahead and like this video and like my Rate My Team post. If you have any more specific questions about that, you can either ask in the comment sections here, or I'll even respond to you on Smogon if you want to do it there. But that's kind of what we got going on here. This is what the post sort of looks like. These hyperlinks there, you can click on them and you can see replays that provide some of the context for what I am talking about in these in the pros here. So I recommend that you look at that, but since it's a Tetrafolium video and we're only like 40 minutes in, I figure maybe we should look at some replays, right? We should get into the good stuff here. Well, actually, some of you I know stop watching once the replays happen, and if that's the case, then see you later. Have a good life and all that jazz. Let's get some cool music going here. We're gonna keep that Xenoblade theme going here. Now, sometimes they've hit me for some copyright on this, so let's not have that happen, please. Be nice to me, license holders of the music, because I'm nice to you. I buy your games, man. I'm just having you in the background. Nobody's coming to this video to listen to Xenoblade music. Some of them are staying to listen to the Xenoblade music, but they'll go find it in other ways if they want to watch it. So let's get into this. ADV Kenny Pickett. I do know who this player is, or at least I have a pretty good idea of who it is. Shout outs to you. And shout outs to, who does Kenny Pickett play for? The Steelers? Or did they cut him yet? I don't know. Lead Medicham is kind of a weird Pokemon for this team to deal with. We do have 2 resists to it in Celebi and Salamence. Salamence does threaten the Medicham out very solidly with its super effective stab, hidden power flying. However, it can be really awkward if the Medicham goes for a rock slide there. It really, really chips into Salamence's defensive utility for the rest of the game. So against something like a lead fighter, if I'm pretty confident that my Swampert is going to live a hit from them, which it should live everything except for like maybe Choice Band Focus Punch, I'm going to attack. And if it is Choice Band Focus Punch and they go for it, well, I'm attacking them. So they're not going to be able to get it off anyway. So yeah, I'm going to switch to my Pursuit Tar on the Hidden Power Grass from this Gengar and get to 6-7% here. And Pursuit to kill that Gengar there. The crit might have mattered, but I don't know. I think it might be an offensive Gengar, so I would have killed anyway. So now I'm going to switch to Celebi here on the Medicham, who is going to go for Rock Slide, probably trying to catch a switch to Salamence. Then I'm going to double, trying to aggressively catch something like a Skarmory for them. This is the thing about this team, and also about how to maybe improve as a player, sometimes you're going to have to make inferences about your opponent's team and then make calls based on limited information. So me going to Celebi there, I was like, okay, I'm threatening big damage on your Medicham with Psychic. And I'm pretty sure this thing is going to be locked into Rock Slide. And if it's not, then like at the very least, Shadow Ball is not going to do that much. My Celebi does outspeed based on the Sandstorm damage here. I'm thinking it's really hard for them to justify staying in, and what are they going to switch to if not something like a Skarmory? So if I go to Magneton there, I could maybe catch the entire Skarmory right then and there on turn 5 and just keep the pressure up. Instead, my opponent stays in and Rock Slides again. It's not the worst case in the world. I do have leftovers on this Magneton, so we can kind of make some progress there. I will stay in Thunderbolt. Again, I'm pretty sure that they're choice banned based on the damage that's happening. I'm going to go for Protect as they switch back to Medicham. This is a great turn for me to go for Protect again, and I will just do so as I get my Magneton back up to about 96% after this turn. And then we can just switch should we so want to, and it's going to be to Celebi. Now I could switch out to try to stop the Shadow Ball damage, but I'm just going to stay in and take my damage on the Medicham, and I will lose my Celebi for this. I'm going to go to Tyranitar, whose health I don't super duper think I need throughout this matchup, and I'm just going to Pursuit to make sure that this Medicham doesn't become like a reversal of momentum later by switching in to sack itself. And I'm going to go to Salamence here on the Clade. I'll switch back to Tyranitar. If they blew up there, I would have been in a great spot, right? My Tyranitar, it's not that useful anymore into this matchup. And we got Engage the Enemy again. As much as I love that song, let's just skip to the next one here. This is so annoying. Why does this playlist do this? You have the original Xenoblade OST followed up by what it sounds like in the definitive edition. Like, that's great. I love that you've got that going on there for those of you also who are real music aficionados and want to listen to both versions, but like it's not great for my video, man. So do better. Anyway, this Tyranitar would have been great into the Claydol. It does, in theory, pressure the Skarmory as well, because most Pursuit Tar do have Fire Blast, or at least Flamethrower, to damage the Skarmory. In this case, I don't. So I am going to have to switch to Magneton here, but this is like the standard play that we end up having to accept a lot of times anyway. My Magneton doesn't even do close to enough to killing the Skarmory, but it does get a para. Not that it really matters. And they just get the second spike up. So, thing is with this team, as you might remember from a few minutes ago when I showed it on the slide, my last Pokemon is Starmie. So Starmie should be able to spin the layers away, which is why I'm okay with Magneton not having Magnet, not having max special attack investment, and not oftentimes getting the OHKO on Skarmory. Sometimes it will still get it, depending on how much the Skarmory has divested from its special defense. Sometimes people will run really fast taunt Skarmory, and this Magneton can still kill those. Or sometimes people will run max Fizz-Def Skarmory, which I don't recommend doing, unless you have a very, very, very good reason to do so. And I'm just going to put it out there. Most of the time, people don't have a good reason to do so. I'll give you an example, actually, of a reason why you might do it. You have Fortress and Dugtrio on your team, and what you're doing is baiting the Magneton to come in and kill your Fortress. Then you go to Dugtrio to remove the Magneton, and then you have a Fizz-Def Skarmory to handle things like Snorlax and the DDers later in the game. That's maybe a case where I would see a Fizz-Def Skarmory being a smart idea there, but usually not a good idea. You're better off with the special defense, trust me. So, yeah. So oftentimes we will let a second layer go up. I'm not that worried about the second layer. My win condition in, or my primary win condition in Salamence does not care about the spikes. Swampert has rest at the very least. If we get chipped down, depending on what we're facing, we might be able to play a pretty nice game into multiple spikes getting down, or I guess 2 spikes getting down at least. So it's okay. I'm okay with getting that. A lot of players are trained to just click the second spike anyway because they're going to be so low on their Skarmory that roaring isn't going to help them that much. And it's not like this Magneton is hitting like a wet noodle. It's still going to do about 80% to the Skarmory. I think that it's justified to have this on this team. If you want to try a different Magneton, that's fine. Where I find the utility in this Magneton is squeezing just a little bit of extra defensive utility. And in particular being a somewhat okay short-term check into things like Blissey. Because we have the combination of leftovers, toxic, and protect. It doesn't beat Blissey necessarily one-on-one, but it does force it to switch out, and then it might have taken some damage. I am going to switch to my Salamence because I do want to keep my Magneton. Many players sack Magneton right there. And in fact, it would have been good to get my Toxic off on the Claydol. However, all right, a little bit of behind the curtains here. I played this guy earlier, and I knew his Claydol was faster than my Magneton. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to pivot to Starmie here because I don't think he's going to rip the boom, and he doesn't have a spin blocker anymore. So I can get the spinner or the spin off right now. And that Earthquake comes down for a good amount of damage onto the Starmie. I am just going to surf and take the damage, and I do manage to get a lucky critical hit, which sucks for my opponent. But it's okay for me, I guess. It means that the Magneton can come in and trap the Metagross and kill it. I will save my Magneton once again here. And we will be in business here. His last mon is Blissey, who I do get a hidden power flying off on. Brick Break should not kill the Blissey at this range, so I'm going to switch to the Magneton, and then I'm going to spam Toxic until I can catch this Claydol with it. They go for a Thunder Wave, which I don't know how valuable realistically that is for my opponent. It does give them slightly better odds to not get Toxic on the Claydol as they switch to it, but should I manage to land it, it's kind of over. And yeah, I land it, so it's kind of over. My Tyranitar still has enough health to live an Earthquake from a Claydol, so we can get our crunch damage off here. And we do. And I'm going to Focus Punch in case they switch to Blissey, which they do. And it's basically over from here. My Tyranitar is faster. Crunch should kill the Blissey. But I will go for soft or Focus Punch anyway, just for aura. And we get the win there. So there you go. 1741, go up to 1758. This player was at 1680s. I got 17 points for winning, which I think is a pretty reasonable amount. But as you're going to see, you do not get very generous gains as you go up on the ladder. For example, my opponent here, 1532. That is more than 200 points less than what I have. I stand to lose 30 points at least if I lose this game. What do I stand to gain? Well, maybe we'll find out. Zapdos, I do not like to see that. I will tend to switch to Celebi here. We do have the bulk and the special attack to kill, win a 1v1 versus most Dugtrio. Should we end up in a situation where it's a mag, or a Zap Dug. And I go to Magneton on the Metagross there. Not always, but quite commonly, Zap plus Metagross first two indicates that it's a mixed offense team. A lot of times they don't have spikes. Once again, you can't say that for sure. Zap and Metagross do fit on quite a few structures, but most commonly it's seen on that mixed offense. So losing Magneton to Metagross is not the end of the world because I don't need it for Skarmory usually. So let's analyze what is realistically what I'm trying to do there. Celebi resists Earthquake, gets Leech Seed off, and or could have Hidden Power Fire. So Metagross is not really inclined to mess around with a Celebi unless it's in a like super duper winning position. Like say if it's an Agility Metagross and with an Agility it can beat down the rest of your team. That's not going to be the case because I have a whole Swampert still, which I've already revealed from the get-go. So I'm thinking to myself, they have to mash, or they have to boom, or they have to switch. If I go to Magneton and they mash, and they're choice band, great. My Magneton literally wins the 1v1 there, because ×4 resisted. There you go, from this side. Is going to be phenomenal at taking the hit. And I also have more HP and leftovers and protect, which not every Magneton has. So we will usually win that with a lot of HP left on the Magneton. And in fact, if they still have a Skarmory in the back, we're pretty likely to still come in and be able to trap that as well. So that's a super duper winning prospect for me. If they blow up, okay, well, they blew up my Magneton. If we're going to go 5v5, I would rather my Magneton be the one that's down, especially if they don't have Skarmory. And then if they switch, well, then it kind of is what it is. I don't think you would switch to Dugtrio immediately on Celebi, because Celebi is not always dead to a hidden power bug, and also can kill the Dugtrio back. And also, a lot of times players will switch their Celebi out of the Metagross, so you'd have no idea what you could be trapping there. So it's a little bit of a awkward play to make. Plus, we don't even know if they even have a Dugtrio on their team. But yeah, on the double down, I'm going to Tyranitar to set up my Sand. And I go for Crunch. This is not a fantastic play for me, to be honest. I was expecting that they would want to switch because usually if it in Tar versus Tar, you don't love to take something like a Brick Break or a really strong Earthquake or something like that. In this case, I end up taking a really strong Earthquake. In fact, that's so strong that it has to be choice banded, which means that I can freely go to Salamence here. They do go to Zapdos, even though I did have Celebi as a potential switch, which would have been great into the Zapdos. It is what it is. I'm going to decide to take my Rock Slide damage because I don't think that they have HP Ice the way that they played around my Celebi there early in this game. And in fact, I do think that they're Rest Zapdos. And that's going to put the Zapdos at a pretty manageable 46% for later in this game. And I will pivot to Starmie, because I don't think that you're going to stay in and go for a Thunderbolt there. That seems a little bit not like the best use of your Zapdos to do that. And we're going to pick up the kill on Zapdos with Starmie. They're going to reveal Aerodactyl, who is not at all that difficult for me to switch into here. Note this, and you might see this in a later replay. Starmie, right? I mean, well, okay, Starmie maybe not so much because Hidden Power Bug is a fairly reasonable click. Starmie oftentimes baits Aerodactyl into clicking Double Edge. And there are plenty of Pokemon on this team where you would be baiting the Double Edge, especially because we reveal Swampert on turn 1, and Double Edge is Aerodactyl's best move to hit Swampert, right? If you can catch your opponent going for Double Edge, switching to Tyranitar is really, really nice, because they cannot stay in versus Tyranitar because they're not doing enough damage, and you're going to be threatening to just beat down their entire Aerodactyl, which might be their win condition. So they have to switch, which means that you're going to get a Pursuit off and do over 50% to the Aerodactyl, which is phenomenal. It makes it very, very easy to stop Aerodactyl from switching in to things like your Celebi later in the game. So that can give you a lot of freedom later in the game if you can find that. Now, I can't really do that because my Tyranitar is at 16%, so it's just going to die. Which is why, with Pursuit Tar especially, you don't really want to stay in on Pokemon that you're not beating, because taking that damage like from that Tyranitar really limits what I can do with my Pursuit Tar. So I would even say that was maybe a mistake for me to stay in. I was trying to call them doing something, didn't work out for me, and I end up in the position where I could have got way more value versus Aerodactyl, and I don't. Also, you have to think Earthquake is a click. That does okay damage to Swampert, not quite as much as Double Edge. But it would also hit the Tyranitar coming in. Thing is, I have Celebi and Salamence as well, and if I switch to Salamence on you clicking Earthquake, that is kind of devastating, because I could threaten to DD up and then beat down whatever else you have on your team. Now in this guy's case, he's got Swampert, which would be plenty fine to take a +1 hit from Salamence. But yeah, he's got to be careful about that as well. But this Swampert here is looking amazing. If I can get a Curse boost off, which I'm going to go for right here, now this Tyranitar and this Aerodactyl are kind of struggling against me. And I think I know what his team is based on what it is. Yeah, I know, it's an Aspen because of the way it is. But this is, I think, a sample team. It looks to me like M Dragon's quad band team. So that was banded Metagross, a banded Tyranitar, a banded Aerodactyl. You have a Rest Zap, you have Monopert. Last Pokemon should be Dugtrio. And if I, like, Monopert's probably the best bet for beating down my Swampert here. So I'm going to keep resting until this guy runs out of Surfs or decides to switch. I only lose to a critical hit. And Aerodactyl's window to get this crit is very, very tight here. Doesn't get it there, as I'm going to get an Ice Beam off. And I get a critical hit, and that just like completely ruins his chance to get there. And it is, in fact, a Dugtrio last. And he's just going to forfeit. Nice. He shows me his card and then gets out of there. That's I would not recommend you do that in poker. And I also maybe would not recommend you do that in Mons. So, there you go. That game. I mean, I think I had it pretty well under control. I made one play that I would, if I could go back, I would have done something different for sure, which was staying in with my Tyranitar into his Tyranitar, clicking Choice Banded Earthquake. But I only gained 9 points for that. Think about that. What if he haxes me? What if he crits my Swampert there, and then like I'm in a super duper trouble against his Aerodactyl, who could be just like one flinch away at that point from winning the game? And I would lose 30 elo for that. But I only gained 9 for winning. It's kind of crazy, but that's just how it is. That's what the grind is all about. You don't get to 1767 if you are scared of that. Okay, I'm turning up the ego a little bit, but I just wanted to say 6-7 again. That's how I know I've hit Unk status, is that I find 6-7 way funnier than the kids who it was intended for. But mostly because other people don't like it, and that's why I like it in response. TNAL, or I'm going to call him T-Nall, I guess. This is a player that I've played quite a bit on ladder, not recently, but I definitely remember them laddering a lot when I was a little bit newer to the format. So let's see what they're up to nowadays. Lead Tyranitar, and we have Swampert. So you're going to see this play here. I almost always switch out of Tyranitar with Swampert turn 1. You might think that doesn't make sense because Swampert is your Tyranitar switch in. Yes, we switch into Swampert because we want to force their Tyranitar to switch out. So we've already done that. We're forcing them to switch out. So they're going to switch. Unless they're a mixed Tyranitar with Hidden Power Grasp. So if that's the case, we don't want to stay in with our Swampert because we don't want to take a ×4 super effective hidden power grass. Yes, we'll live it, but we don't kill back with unboosted Earthquake. So it's not really worth it to do so. The common switch-ins to Swampert are Celebi and Skarmory. Skarmory, you might think that doesn't really make a lot of sense because Skarmory doesn't want to take a bunch of water moves and blah, blah, blah. But Skarmory realistically is going to survive a Hydro Pump from Swampert, even an invested one. It's going to survive 2 of them, most likely. Swampert could miss, etc., etc. And getting spikes up early in a game, especially versus a Swampert team, can be instrumental to winning the game. So I like to switch to Magneton to cover the Skarmory switch from the opponent. If they switch to Celebi, that's not usually the best for me, but I'm okay pivoting out of Magneton to another Celebi answer, if that's the case. However, we don't want to stay in with Swampert, especially if they're just going to be switching to Celebi anyway. Never, never, never does a physical Tyranitar stay in versus a lead Swampert. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, yeah, I pivot to Magneton here, trying to catch. But considering that they have that hidden power, I know that they're going to have a fire move. I'm going to protect just to scout it, and it's going to be Fire Blast. So now I'm going to switch to my Salamence, which is a fire resist. It also covers Brick Break. Well, I mean, I get crit, which is not fantastic, but that's fine. We can Brick Break back, and because of Mixtar's inability to run a lot of defensive investment, it really can't afford to do so because it really wants the speed, it really wants the special attack, and sometimes they'll even do like a minus defense nature because they don't want their Brick Break to be weak either. I'm an attack invested Brick Break Salamence, so I can get the kill there. They would be inclined to stay in because if they're like, oh, if this is a mixed Mence or a DD Mence that doesn't have Brick Break, then they can take the hit and then kill me back with their, how should I say, their Ice Beam. So, yeah. This tends to be okay line into mixed Mence. I will say some players will scout it, and if they scout it, then like, all right, they got you, I guess. At least you're getting Brick Break damage on whatever they're switching to, though, and then you can kind of game plan from there. But in the case that we end up in a situation like this, we've traded a little bit of damage on Salamence, negligible damage on Magneton. In fact, it's going to get healed off by leftovers to kill the entire mixed Mence or Mixtar, which is one of the things that tends to get damage on Swampert. One of the things that's really cool about Mixtar, right, is Swampert is such a common switch-in that you can coax, like you can like rip that HP grass as they switch in, and then you've compromised that entire Swampert. You have to conceal your set a little bit though to do that, or make a hard call. But yeah. They're going to go for Rock Slide there against my Salamence, and Tyranitar takes that pretty well, and I'm going to go for that Pursuit play that I was talking about earlier. Think about that. How much more value do I get out of that play than going Swampert, and then they're just going to like switch to Celebi afterwards anyway, right? So yeah. Great position for me to open this game up. I do think that they are an SD pass Celebi at this point, so I'm going to stay in and go for a Crunch as they go for their +2 attack, and they're going to fire back with a super effective hidden power. I don't know if it's bug or fighting at this point. If it was bug, it shouldn't usually kill my Tyranitar because I have quite a lot of defensive investment. If it is fighting, though, it would have killed all the time, and I would imagine it probably is fighting, given that they were willing to stay in and click it there, because if they, obviously if they don't kill, I would kill them with Crunch, which means that they don't get to pass this boost off. I'm okay with this trade, though, because I can go to Starmie, who stops Celebi from being able to pass these boosts, because I'm threatening a fast Ice Beam to kill it. And we'll get an Ice Beam off on whoever the switch-in is, and it happens to be this Metagross, who doesn't reveal an item I think it might be choice band, so I'll go to Magneton just to check them, see if they want to go for a hidden power, or sorry, a what's it called, a Meteor Mash. And if I do, I trap and kill them. If they go for Earthquake, which honestly they probably would be inclined to do, since Starmie is in. It does suck to lose the Magneton in that case, but you know, it's a trade that I'm willing to make at this point because I'm pretty sure they don't have a Skarmory. I'm not saying sack your Magneton all the time if you don't think your opponent has a Skarmory. I am saying, though, you can play a little bit riskier if you don't need your Magneton to eliminate their Skarmory anymore. So if you can find value in your Magneton that has something to do with something other than trapping and removing Skarmory, then try to sneak that value in. So yeah, we'll go to Celebi on the Earthquake here, and this Celebi should just be able to get some Leech Seeds down. Well, okay, in theory, it gets Leech Seeds down, and helps me out versus this Metagross here, but unfortunately we miss. We take a Meteor Mash for a lot of damage there, and I'm going to Earthquake, and I assume now that they may want to go for a Boom, and I don't want to lose my Swampert here. I don't think they would go for the Boom on the turn before, because they don't know if I have Protect. They don't know if I have, well, I mean, Substitute wouldn't matter. And they're almost always going to live an attack from my Swampert, so it's not super duper worth it. Plus, I could always, even if I don't have Protect, I could just pivot out. And if I catch the Boom on something else, you're in trouble. But now I think they might be inclined to Boom, but against my better judgment, maybe, I'm just going to stay in an Earthquake again. You could call that a call out that they weren't going to click Boom that turn because, switching to Celebi or Magneton would be just too free to do. There's also maybe an argument here that they are not actually a Boom Metagross. They may have Rock Slide as their last move, and it makes a little bit more sense because that's typically more like a win condition kind of Metagross, and kind of makes sense with Lumberry plus SD Pass to be there. I'm not saying that means for sure that it doesn't have Boom. It may, but we take a little bit of a risk here. I don't know if I would necessarily advise that, but we were in a dire spot. But we actually end up not in a dire spot thanks to this here. They get a Leech Seed off on my Starmie, which I could spin away, which is kind of a funny application of Rapid Spin, but it's cool. They go to Magneton, though, which is quite good for them, but I'm going to go to my own Magneton here. Let's go ahead and get the damage that we need on their Mag. We don't kill, unfortunately, because we don't quite have enough Spatak investment for it. Maybe there's an argument you should run more Spatak investment than I do on my Magneton, although I like the speed and the HP benchmarks that I hit, so there's some give and take there. If you want to tech your Magneton to more consistently get the kill on opposing Magneton, assuming you're going to make a play like I did there, then I certainly recommend that you try that. But I am able to just finish this off with Starmie here. Yeah. And sure, they'll Protect to scout the move. I could have clicked Ice Beam to conceal some information, but I think being able to click Surf there is kind of nice as well. Sometimes their last is something that maybe would risk it versus Hydro me, but won't risk it versus Surf me, and letting them know that could maybe scare them into not making a play that I can't predict as well. There's some elements of sometimes you do want to show your cards a little bit so that your opponent isn't going to make plays that are hard to play around. You know what I'm saying? In any case, we go Celebi as they get the Substitute off. They're in Leechy range, and yeah, I'm in a little bit of trouble here because my Swampert's not going to survive. I am going to go to Salamence, though, to get the Intimidate off. I do live a Double Edge. But I am going to go back to Swampert. I will sack the Swampert there. And then we will go to Salamence to get another Intimidate off on the arrow. As they go for Rock Slide, and they do kill us. And then I'm going to go to Starmie here. Okay, this is a sequence that maybe looks bad, right? It's like, oh, I sacrificed basically 3 Pokemon to this Aerodactyl. Why would I do that? Well, you have to think here. What is his last? What would make sense here? So, I can't be for sure what it is. Maybe he's running Milotic or Suicune to give himself a little bit more defensive backbone. But my thought here is with an SD Pass team like this, and given the synergies that you've got going on, I think you probably have Salamence as your last. Salamence pairs really well with Metagross. It likes Magneton to remove the Skarmory, especially if you're a DD Salamence. So I'm thinking to myself, if my Starmie can live this Aerodactyl and get the kill, then like I can just win the game from here, I think. Now, we could argue, did I need to sack my Salamence to get there? Because they could just switch their Aerodactyl out here, right? And come back in with a neutral attack and then maybe help themselves out there. Which is what they're going to do. But I don't know. I guess it helps me in case they decide that they're going to stay in with their Aerodactyl. I do have that fast Ice Beam to kill the Salamence, and then they've got their arrow in here. I just need to dodge a flinch or a crit. And I do. And then we get this game here. So, yeah. They said great play to end it. I guess maybe, again, arguably, I could have... Let's see. They're locked into Double Edge, right? I could have just went Starmie here, and I would have more likely won that game with the combination of Starmie and Salamence still alive. I could have sacked my Salamence on the turn that Aerodactyl is in to Cycle and Intimidate, which would have given me slightly higher odds to win with my Starmie there. And even if they do get the flinch on or if I want to play it another way, they do get the flinch on Starmie, I'm giving myself 3 chances to dodge Rock Slide instead of just 2. If I keep my Salamence alive. So, yeah. But we do manage to identify what their last is based on some context clues, based on some game knowledge, and we do manage to win the game anyway. So, yeah, slightly unoptimal from me, I'm not going to lie, but good enough to get the game there. And that's the thing, right? Do you have to play perfect to win all these games? No. You certainly don't. But you do have to put yourself in a position where you give yourself the chance to win. And that's kind of going to be the takeaway, I think, for this video. Like, put yourself in a position to succeed, and then if the cards fall your way, you can succeed. Now, that's not saying, like use a poker term here. Like, it doesn't mean we want to go all in on every hand and say, like, all right, well, we could draw a straight and we would win, maybe. Like, no, that's not great odds. You want to give yourself as much equity as possible. Make it so that, like, okay, I've got a 60% chance to win this one, or like best I can do is give myself a 40% chance, but like I'm gonna play for it, right? And that's sort of what I did with this one here. It looked dire for a moment there, but I was like, okay, actually Starmie's like probably beating the last 3, so we just have to figure out a way to comfortably get our Starmie to do that. So yeah, next game here versus Fatish. I don't know. I know them as SDJ, a Melee player. So if you run into them, there you go. Now you know. Shout outs to the Melee scene once again. Zapdos lead. Let's go to Celebi. And they're going to Baton Pass to Skarmory. And I'm going to go straight to Magneton. pretty routine here. I get a really high roll on the Skarmory, or maybe that's not a fully SPDEF invested Skarm, and leave it at 12%, which is great for me because I can go for a Rock Slide. That does a lot of damage to the Zapdos, and I'm going to switch to Celebi. If it is HP Ice, which it is, that will do quite a bit of damage to the Celebi, but I do live 2 of them, so I can just fire off my Psychic there. Okay. The Psychic click there could be punished. It could be punished. If they went to Dugtrio, Dugtrio would live the Psychic and then would be able to kill my Celebi. But my thought is, if Skarmory is one of their only Salamence checks, it might be okay for me to do that anyway, because that Skarmory is so low, the Zapdos is so low, I'm a lot of times getting a kill after the Dugtrio anyway. Maybe not always, maybe not always. They could have something like a Swampert to take the hit from the Salamence, and certainly they should have something that can live a +1 Salamence hit. But like, it's a risk that is maybe acceptable here. If you want to play safer, I think you recover there. But yeah. I do manage to get some good damage onto the Ludicolo, who Ice Beams and is not able to kill me. And I can put the Ludicolo really low here, and I actually get a really high roll and end up killing the Ludicolo anyway, so I guess maybe that's fine. But that's good. Ludicolo is a rare combination of 2 things that I think this team can sometimes struggle with. Offensive Celebi can be a bit of an issue because our best defensive switch to Celebi is our own Celebi, and Calm Mind plus HP Fire is going to beat our Celebi in the long run. The other thing is, Salamence is a good offensive check to the Celebi. However, their Celebi could be faster, and it could have really strong coverage, particularly a +1 Psychic or Hidden Power Ice to click into our Salamence. And if it is faster, then we're kind of just SOL there. The other thing that's awkward for our team is Ice Beam Suicune. Because it's pretty bulky and the combination of water and ice is not very well handled by our team. Starmie can take it, right? But not like quite as comfortably in the long run as we would want. And we also don't really threaten to do enough damage to the Suicune back. Ludicolo kind of sits in the middle between those two. It doesn't have Calm Mind, but it does have the coverage, and if it is Rain Dance 3 attacks, like, it has pretty good coverage to hit my team. In fact, arguably perfect coverage to hit my team. But Ludicolo is a fairly rare Pokemon, and I don't think it's completely instant loss if we're able to play proactively around it. So I'm going to accept this matchup here, and we managed to get a lot of good stuff to go our way here, so that's great. Magneton is honestly not the worst Zapdos switch that we could hope to have. It resists the combination of Thunderbolt and the 2 hidden power types that Zapdos would use. And with leftovers, it's really, really, really unrealistic for Zapdos to break through our Magneton. So we can just trade T-Bolts down on it. But because I'm pretty sure he's not a Rest Zapdos, and I think he's pretty likely to switch and not to Skarmory, I'm just going to go for a Toxic. And I managed to catch the Dugtrio here. So I'm going to protect, get my Toxic chip onto the Dugtrio, and I think I'm going to go down protecting. We don't manage to get the double protect there. Doesn't really matter. I'm just doing that to get the toxic damage on the Dugtrio. If I hit 4 protects in a row and the Dugtrio dies, great. Fantastic. But like, clicking anything else doesn't really get me any value, so might as well go for my highest value proposition. Click there. I will Dragon Dance at this point, because I'm thinking that this is a pretty low defensive utility team here. And that ends up being the right call here, because that Snorlax did not boom on me. So I'm kind of free to run roughshod on this, except I missed my rock slide. And you know what? I bet you his last mon is Heracross, and we would have just won the game right there with the rock slide landing. But you know what? That's fine. It's mons. Sometimes you have that 90% chance to miss, and you do. A good thing I have Ice Beam on Tyranitar to take out the Zapdos. And they will go to Dugtrio and get that kill there. The thing that's kind of cool about Ice Beam as the coverage on Tyranitar rather than like Rock Slide is that it means that they can't really switch to Dugtrio on your Tyranitar. You know, if I clicked Rock Slide, they could maybe live and then kill my Tar with and then save their Zapdos. But if they switched to Doug on Ice Beam, well, they would have died. So great for me. Swampert in versus the Dugtrio, who does a decent amount of damage to me, but I am going to kill it back. And they actually have last mon Magneton because Mag Duggers, man, you can't get rid of them. I'm just going to kill their Magneton there. That's fine with me. This is probably Curse, Rest, Snorlax. Weather Clear idea makes a lot of sense with the Pokemon that we've seen. I will click Earthquake just in case I get the kill. Unfortunately, I don't, but that's okay because I can Curse and then I can Rest. And then I'll be in a great spot here. I do think, arguably, a better play here might be go Celebi and get the Leech Seed off, because we'll get a lot of chip healing back on our Swampert. However, we would be giving up a lot of turns for the Snorlax to get an early start on its curses. And, you know, obviously, Celebi is not going to beat down on the Snorlax fast enough to really slow it down in terms of its curses. Starmie is not going to be able to do that either, so Swampert would probably be behind 2 curses for the price of a Leech Seed being up. Maybe that's acceptable, but it's hard to say. There's a Body Slam Paras that can really, really mess us up, and I think that so long as he's not critting, he's like not even 5-hit KOing us, so maybe this is the better spot to be in. I'm not sure. Sorry if I'm moving around in my chair too much and it's catching out on the microphone. If I was a good YouTuber, maybe I wouldn't do that. But yeah, he's gonna go for a Body Slam there, and there's game over from that stage. Even if he crit me, at that point, Starmie is able to get the kill on a 7% Snorlax. So yeah. I think probably he should have went for Rest there if he wanted to keep his odds to win the game. But I would have just cursed up and I would have beat down on the Snorlax, force it into a sort of like a curse loop or a rest loop. Eventually I'll get the 3-hit KO or a crit on him. So chances are pretty good for me. An errant crit from the Snorlax could just ruin my day, though, or if I get full para'd a bunch of times, yeah. But there you go. Look at that. Once again, a crit from the Snorlax could have ruined my whole day, and I get all of 9 points for that. There you go. It's not easy out here for shooters like Tetrafolium. Here's Slowly Drifting. I think is one of the lowest elo players I've played today. And they're going to rip the boom immediately on my Swampert. That sucks. And then they get the timer going. Come on. The villain, using another poker term there, as they go to Fortress here, as I've got Tyranitar in. I am of the opinion, you see Tyranitar as the Fortress player, if you have a switch in for Tyranitar, you are not allowed to go for Spike. Because they could outspeed and go for Fire Move, and you lose your entire Fortress for it. But my opponent has not graduated from Legence University. He does not know that, so alright. I'll go to Magneton, and I'll go for HP Fire, and you know what? This is even more egregious. There is no chance that my Magneton kills a max special defense Fortress, which is the standard set. I think he's full Fizz Def on that guy. And he's like, yeah, we're going to beat down on Metagross with with our fortress that does 25% per earthquake. Silliness. Let's go to Tyranitar here. We have not revealed the set for our Tyranitar. Maybe they're going to be scared of what the Tyranitar could do here. Who's to say? We will just crunch to break the sub. If he went to +1, I still break the sub. It's going to get awkward as he Calm Minds up here. But thankfully, he didn't go for the first Calm Mind. If he did, he would have been in a better spot. And thankfully, also, he goes for a substitute here, which literally does nothing for him. Which means that actually my Tyranitar is going to 1v1 the Raikou. Had he just taken a kill on my Tyranitar or sequenced that a little bit better, he would have forced me to go to Celebi to beat down the Raikou, in which case, if he has Hidden Power Ice, he could have left me in a really, really, really bad spot against his Houndoom, which was unrevealed at that point. So, I'm telling you, this guy, the way he's played this with the Boom, the Fori, clicking Spike immediately, and then the Raikou in on the Magneton afterwards, he was in a great position to win this game. And I'm not gonna say he can't still win this game. I think, though, if you gave him, with what he did there, if he played a little bit better with that Raikou, devastating me. I guess he doesn't know what my team is, and maybe I could have had some better responses. And in fact, his team is extremely Dugtrio weak as it is. Metagross doesn't like to see it. Weakened Fortress doesn't like to see it. Raikou, Houndoom, hell, Blissey doesn't like to see it either. But yeah, we forced that Blissey into a position where it's going to have to switch out there, and we can get our Toxic on Houndoom. Here's the thing. You might say, well, Tetra, they could have just stayed in and clicked Seismic Toss and killed your Magneton there. That's true. But after all that Toxic chip, they would have been in Brick Break range from my Salamence. And then Brick Break, like, especially with Houndoom revealed, free click from me. Doesn't work out that way, though. I do go for a little bit of a greedy protect versus the Houndoom, but we are able to protect here, and we're out of Seismic Toss range now, which is fantastic. Because we have such high HP investment, that is what is afforded to us there. If you had less HP investment than my Magneton, you'd probably die to Seismic Toss there, which is kind of insane. I do go for a Thunderbolt there, because if they switch to Houndoom, I want to get that damage. And I could do it again, but I'm a greedy bastard and click Protect. Is what it is. Do I Toxic here like the GOAT? No. I should have went for a Thunderbolt on that turn, because here's the thing, right? They have not gone to their last, so I'm thinking that their last doesn't have a good matchup into Magneton. Otherwise, they would have went to it by now, right? So that Blissey, if they stayed in and soft-boiled it and I Thunderbolted, Toxic undoes that. Let's actually go back to the turn where I'm talking about this here. This turn right here. Turn 20. Oh, wait, I actually go for it here. Same concept on the next turn. Turn 21. Okay. If I Thunderbolt, I'll do 17%. They're going to take 18% chip as well from the Toxic. If they stay in and kill my Magneton, same deal. They're in Brick Break range for my Salamence, and I'm probably going to win the game from there. If they instead go for a soft-boiled, some of this is getting undone, and they're going to have to, like, they're going to be in the same spot on the next turn, and except even worse. In which case I would just Thunderbolt again, right? Same idea for me. If they switch to Houndoom, they're going to take a big fat Thunderbolt to the face. I can protect to get some more chip healing on the on my Magneton, and they're going to take more toxic damage with the Houndoom. And then Celebi is unlocked, because I can force this Celebi or this Blissey to switch out via Leech Seed as well. So should have clicked Thunderbolt here, but instead I greed to protect like a dumb idiot. And no timer usage for me. I should have thought about that a little more, frankly. All right, it is what it is, though. We will get our Toxic off on the Blissey here, and we will die. Starmie's going to come in. Houndoom does not want to switch into Starmie for sure. So we're going to see what the last is, and it's Porygon 2. And let me tell you this. I understand you do need Porygon 2 for this team because it's so dug weak. But this team absolutely freaking sucks versus things like Aerodactyl, a DD Tyranitar. Your only rock resist on the team is lead Choice Band Metagross that you are willing to blow up on a Swampert. So this guy should lose every game he ever plays against DD Tyranitar. Probably most games that he ever plays against DD Mence. Most games he ever plays against let's see who else. Aerodactyl. And a lot of games that he plays against Spikes plus Spin Blocker, if they are able to play very smartly around the Houndoom. Because, you know, Fortress is telegraphing a Pursuit Trapper, right? So fundamentally, and this is what I'm going to say, like, I understand the concept behind this team, but going to go back to my use good teams. This, to me, is not a good team. And I've built teams like this, for sure. Look at my Blaziken team. It's kind of similar to this. And that's, honestly, that's not a good team. I don't know if I could hit 1800 with that team if I tried it now, even though I'm a better player than I was back then when I was playing with it. But the other thing you have to keep in mind is sometimes you end up with a good matchup here. And look at this. Porygon 2, I can't break that with Starmie. Blissey, I can't break that with Starmie. I have to go to Celebi to force these out. And still has his Houndoom, which is probably the hardest Celebi counter in the game. So actually, I'm in a lot of trouble here. So we can talk about how bad I think this guy's team is. And sorry if you're watching this. I don't mean to dog on you. But I think there's a lot of fundamental flaws with this. But even still, I'm in a rough spot here. I do manage to get my Leech Seed off. And I think he's so ready to rip the Pursuit off on me. I even take my time to think about it here. That I'm going to actually stay in with the Celebi and get the Leech and Tox damage going here. If he Fire Blasts there, he kills me. And then I'm in big trouble. But now he has to Fire Blast there, because if I do that again, his Houndoom's dead. Or virtually dead. So, yeah, that's a free switch to Starmie for me. If I was really cool with and nice with it, I could have switched back to Celebi on that turn, which would have been kind of funny. But I don't know. You can never guess if they're gonna stay in and crunch there. So I think I have to kind of go for something. Ice Beam would kill, and it possibly gets a freeze on Blissey or Porygon, which gives me a little bit of a freer switch. Otherwise, but yeah, now we're gonna go to Celebi, and I'm gonna be using my Leech Seeds to sort of make some progress here. He does reveal Ice Beam last move on his Blissey, which is horrible news for my Salamence, because some of the time I may be able to go to Salamence, and let me pause here. Some of the time I may be able to go to Salamence, and I'm just like, okay, he gets a Thunder Wave off on me. That's not great. But do I need it to outspeed the Porygon 2? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe I do, actually. Because the Porygon 2 probably also has Ice Beam. Also, Porygon 2 plus Blissey, illegal in my mind. They have way too much offensive and defensive overlap. So Like, you can't put them together. Like, I understand that, okay, Porygon 2 trapped the Dugtrio, you don't have to worry about your Blissey getting trapped, but you have Spikes and Ice Beam on your Blissey. Like, you should, like, you don't have to be that afraid of Dugtrio with it. Oh my gosh. Anyway, just Tetra things to crash out about here. Thunderwave from them is actually a pretty smart click, but I do keep clicking my Ice Beams as much as possible, because if I can get a freeze off, then I can potentially put myself in a good spot to win the game. At this point, I'm okay if he wants to switch to Houndoom, because the Toxic plus Sand damage is going to basically leave him in only one more chance to switch in ever in the game. And if I'm at max HP, then I'm okay with taking a Pursuit on Celebi, so long as I don't get crit. If he has Crunch, it could be awkward to switch into the Starmie. And we would have to consider that. We might have to instead go to Salamence, but if he has Will-O-Wisp and just throws that out, could also be in trouble. Don't know. Anyway, we need to not get crit or frozen or miss our Leech Seeds with Celebi here. We're in a really bad spot because, frankly, I didn't get as much value out of my Magneton as I was supposed to. If I got that Thunderbolt off on the Houndoom, we would have been in a much, much simpler spot, methinks, here. Well, actually, we would have been in a pretty similar spot, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. It just would have been that I wouldn't have had to game on the Houndoom to keep my Celebi alive. I would have just had that virtually for free. But I digress. I may have actually been able to save my Magneton as well, because I wouldn't have had to sack it to Blissey. But here we go. Big turn here. He's got the Wish floating. What is he gonna do? Well, if you ask me, he should Ice Beam. But he might get really impatient and go to Houndoom here, thinking that, okay, the Celebi has only revealed Psychic. It can't touch the Houndoom. If Houndoom gets back in the game, that could be a way to break this sort of like Leech Seed shenanigans. But I do have HP Grass, and I do kill on switching, so I do manage to land that, and there we go. Now the Houndoom's gone. Great. Don't have to worry about that anymore, but I still have to worry about this Blissey. And frankly, we're going to have to stall it out of Ice Beams, probably, to win the game. Thankfully, though, if we do stall it out of Ice Beams, Salamence is, like, really, really, really devastating for these last two. So, yeah, we do have to risk, like, critical hits on our Celebi. It does suck, but it is what it is. I'll go Salamence here. If he Ice Beamed here, he was a legend. Fortunately, though, he's not a legend. And this actually lets me kill the Blissey. He's supposed to switch to Porygon 2 there, but the issue is, if you do switch to Porygon 2 there, now the Blissey is dead to Salamence calling a double. And if I get that double right, then we could win the game. Instead, he sacks the Blissey. Worst possible play you can make there. And gets this Porygon in. Why is that the worst possible play? Well, that's because now I can go to Starmie. I'll sacrifice my Starmie. Or I could even just pivot to Celebi here if I want to. And I get the Leech Seed off. I'm quite likely to win the game from there. And in fact, maybe it would have been a little smarter for me to pivot Celebi on that turn. It gives me a little bit better equity into missing my Leech Seeds here. But it is what it is. We can kind of just recover spam a little bit versus this Porygon 2, as long as we don't get frozen. But even if we do get frozen, it's not completely cooked, depending on where the Porygon 2 is leaving itself off. And we could also switch on a turn that they're going for recover and all that goodness. But yeah, we do get a Psychic Spadef drop. We probably would have gotten it eventually, right? And then we do kill the Porygon 2, and we managed to win that game anyway there, which is, whew, my heart. But yeah, this is the thing, right? Like, this team is fishing for Doug Trio. Maybe if I was playing a Doug Trio team, you would have had a great shot there. But look at, and this is not even like a good matchup, like on paper anyway. You have a lot of tools for my Pokemon here, like your Houndoom for Celebi. You have the Boom, which nobody on my team really wants to take, just the Swampert. And you have 2 checks to my Salaman's win condition, and you still lose this game. And that's because it's just because this team's not it, man. And okay, again, sorry to go off, but you know, the people who are still watching at this point, they're trying to learn something here, and you might see this team and you might not understand what the issues are. And I think the issues are you have so many instant loss matchups like DD Tar, like a well played Aerodactyl, a well played Spikes plus Spin Blocker angle, and you're like, you don't have enough. Like, this team doesn't have as playable lines into like a standard matchup like into my team, for example. So I just, no, you can't play that. Sorry. Grifter Charles. I know who this player is. In fact, believe it or not, I was in a Discord call, streaming my games for some friends because I was like, I'm really high on the ladder, guys. Like, take a look at this. Wouldn't you know it, I get Q-sniped by somebody who's in the call. It's Grifter Charles. All right. He's got his lead Arcanine team. So this is kind of fair to a degree, because I did play a friendly with the player behind Grifter Charles the night before, and he was using this team, so I did know what his team was. So we both know each other's teams here, so we're gonna have to see what happens. Weezing, Arcanine Weezing already strange. I will tell you there is another UUBL, or lower, in fact lower than UUBL, on his team. So yeah. The Arcanine here is probably going to go for, yeah, Overheat, so it's White Herbal proc, and then it can go for Thief to steal my Tyranitar's leftovers if it so chooses. But I'm going to actually opt to switch out there to Magneton, who takes a Hidden Power fighting for its troubles, and I stay in and I sack, which is probably not the right move. I'm just going to be real with you. But it does mean the Arcanine's pretty low, so it's going to be hard to switch that Arcanine back in on anything. So maybe that's worth it. I'm not sure. Wish Pass to the Roselia here, who takes a whopping 79% from my Swampert there. I will go to Salamence because I do know that his Roselia has Giga Drain, and I don't want to take that. Roselia doesn't always have an attacking move, let alone a grass-type move, but I do know for a fact what this Roselia set is, so yeah. We do have our Pursuit Tar in versus Weezing. This is the best Tyranitar to have versus Weezing. All the other Tyranitars tend to struggle because, yeah, Weezing's got way too high a Spadef stat. And my opponent here is going to get Roselia in versus my Swampert switch. I am not willing to risk the Giga Drain, so I will switch my Celebi there. Zetz, if he was playing this, would have Earthquaked there, and he would have lost his Swampert, and he would have looked like a clown for doing so. Although, maybe he would have went for Earthquake on the first turn and killed the Roselia on the turn that it spiked. And then he would have looked like a legend. But I digress. There's always some amount of risk in making plays like that, and just because they pay off doesn't necessarily mean that they're good plays. I am going to stand by what I did around that Roselia more than going for the Earthquake. Even if it would have worked out, I think this is more consistent overall. Speaking of consistency, getting that crit with the Meteor Mash there. Remember that. This Metagross hacking me, bro. getting the critical hit that really, really puts a lot of strain on my Swampert throughout the rest of his game here. And yeah, we're going to pivot out of the Weezing here to get our Starmie in. We can at least spin this Spike. Good. He goes for Seismic Toss. Whatever. We do have Recover, so we're fine. We can loop this if we want. He's going to throw up that Wish. I really, really, really don't want to let Arcanine get back into this game. So I end up going for Ice Beam. Because fuck the Roselia too. Alright, but honestly though, kind of a alright play by me, but it doesn't really amount to much. It does mean, because I got the freeze on the Roselia, it does mean I can get a relatively free switch out. Although, I wonder if he would have stayed in had he not gotten frozen. Not sure. We'll have to see. Or I guess I'd have to ask him. I stay in to get my Leech Seed off on the Metagross, and it gets a Mash Raise. Look at him haxing me, bro. Alright, and then he makes a pretty nice double to Roselia on my Swampert, who I decide to risk on that turn. It was not the right play. It really, really wasn't. It really, really, really wasn't. I could have switched to a lot of things there. I could have switched to my Celebi. But yeah. I do manage to get some damage on this Weezing, though. It's getting pretty low. It can't switch in on too many more things. And my Celebi is faster than his Arcanine. So he is going to have to switch there. I go for a Psychic like a noob. I should have went for Leech Seed. But it is what it is. Starmie is in the house here. And it's in not so good range here. So I'm going to have to surf to get some damage. And I get the crit. There we go. The luck will swing back in the agent's way. My shooters are out tonight. But realistically, I did want to get the chip damage on the Metagross, and I was hoping that I could put it in a spot where it can't switch into a +1 Brick Break, because I think this team is dangerously close to losing to a +1 Salamence. But we're going to have to do a little bit of work to get there. Getting rid of the Metagross, though, is really nice for us. The one thing that is not so great about this Salamence set is we really, really struggle to beat Metagross because we don't have Earthquake. But I think that's sometimes worth it because we need some stronger hits into things like Blissey and Tyranitar. Maybe we could argue about that, though, about whether maybe we have enough tools for those Pokemon as it is. That we could maybe afford to be Earthquake instead. Not sure. I will switch my Celebi in here because I don't want to get Giga Drained. A part of me is thinking we could maybe stall these Giga Drains. He only has 5 more, so could maybe do that. We'll get a Leech Seed off on this Blissey, who goes for an Ice Beam. So good to know that he does have Ice Beam there. He's already clicked that move before, though, so kind of not that crazy that he has it. I do get my Tyranitar in here, which gets a lot of chip healing, and I'm able to go for a Focus Punch, and I kill this Arcanine. Nice. We sacked our whole Magneton and our Swampert, but at least we didn't take any thieves from that Arcanine. It's what it is. What it is. Misplay. Okay. I stay in with my Tyranitar to get crunch damage off on the Claydol. I really, really, really do not want to sacrifice my Tyranitar. And I really, really don't want to switch to Salamence, because if he has Boom and he clicks it there, that would be really bad. So I go to Starmie, and he does click the Boom there, which is not great, because this Roselia can go and get the rest of its spikes up. But at the very least, I do have hits into the Celebi with all of my Pokemon or the Celebi, the Roselia, that do kind of slow it down. So it's not the end of the world here. Having a Leech Seed on this Blissey and then being able to click Psychic is a great spot to be in. Although he can pivot out of the Blissey on any turn that I have to recover my Celebi, which can be an awkward spot to be in. There's maybe an argument I could try to go to Tyranitar on one of those Ice Beam clicks from him. And I do go to Tyranitar here as he throws up the Wish. Wheezing, I'm not sure if it'll die here, but I have to go for Crunch. And I get a critical hit. So there we go. Chances are, and knowing this builder, that was a very heavily special defense invested Wheezing. And yeah, I maybe didn't get away with the kill there. Now, at the very least, I could have gotten like another Crunch off on the Wheezing, left it really low, and then I could have even traded my Pursuit into it to try to stop it from leaving. So it wouldn't have been the end of the world here, but yeah, it's not a fantastic spot to be in, though. I will click my Ice Beam on the Roselia. It does 55%, and I am slower than it, so its Giga Drain is going off first, which is actually fortunate for me, because it would have gotten more healing the other way around. And I clicked Focus Punch. Why do I click Focus Punch? Well, Salamence, I know, beats this Roselia. And Blissey, if it switched in, I could have killed it there. But I want to get my Dragon Dance off so that I can beat the Blissey. And this is, I think, safe to do. Usually Roselia, oftentimes it could be running Stun Spore. But because he's Giga Drain, and because I know his team, I know that his last two moves, in fact, are Leech Seed and Hidden Power Fire. So this Roselia cannot do anything to stop my Salamence from going to the moon here. And my attack invested +1 Brick Break will kill that Blissey. And Roselia will die on the switch in.
GG.
Yeah,
GG.
Let him click the
yeah,
button.
you pretty much won the moment you got the crit on the meta.
Just go Roselia. That'll be cooler for the
No.
video.
Oh,
Damn it.
doesn't give him.
So there we go. We end up getting to 1797. Let's go. All right. Maybe I picked too many replays for this, but you know what? I'm excited. It's my channel. I can do whatever I want. And what I want to do is show you guys this. Now, I mean, it's kind of spoilers what's going to happen here, because you know how close I am. My opponent's at 16-17. I'm standing to gain about 10 elo if I win the game. Crazy to say that about a 16-17 player, but you know what I eventually get to at the end of this. Let's see what happens. Tar versus Pert. We're going to make our classic play of going to Magneton right away, and it works out. Skarmory has to go for a spike here if it wants to achieve any value. If you roar as Skarmory there, it's so low value proposition for you, right? Because if this Magneton leaves you really, really low, and we end up into a Pokemon that you can't even get a spike against with your low health Skarmory anyway, like, it kind of sucks. So you have to spike there, unless you're... You could be, in fact, a YOLO Skarm, which you could click Hidden Power Ground into my Magneton over. But my Magneton's actually favored to live that because of the HP investment, so we would have been fine. Most of the time. So we managed to kill off that Skarmory. We only let one spike up, and you go to Charizard, which is relatively safe for my Starmie to get in versus. They do get a substitute up here. I'm just going to Surf. Hidden Power Grass does 6-7% to me. That's not a great spot to be in. This Starmie's kind of low, but I can go for my Rapid Spin here because I know you're not going to risk staying in with that Charizard. This is an off me, as evident by the fact that it outsped my Starmie with the leftovers. Yeah, not a great spot, but I do manage to land my Leech Seed there. I was trying to cover a switch, if maybe he would do that. Instead, my Celebi is kind of low. I'm going to go Magneton. I do manage to get a Toxic off on the Blissey, which is kind of a good spot. Not fantastic, though. We do get paralyzed for our trouble. Oof. There we go. And yeah, I throw another Toxic out there. I was trying to catch any of these other Pokemon switching in, but it is a last mon Metagross. I can go to Salamence because I know you're gonna Earthquake there. Come on, man. And now we'll go to Pert, trying to not take a mash there. We do manage to get in versus the Tyranitar, and generally this would be a good time to do something with my Pert here, but I am not convinced that this is not a Mixtar. So I want to check it, and he goes for Earthquake. So it makes me think he's probably not a Mixtar at this stage. I go for Brick Break here, which was maybe not the correct play. If anything, I was trying to hit the Metagross coming in, but like Starmie coming in does, one, make quite a lot of sense, and two, if I would have went for, say, a Hidden Power flying there, I would have left that Starmie really, really low. I don't know if I necessarily kill it, but it would have been fine into Blissey. It would have been great into Charizard. I guess it would have sucked, though, if the Tyranitar stayed in and decided it wanted to trade down with my Salamence, though. Now we're going to switch into the Magneton, who takes 69% from the Surf, and I'm going to have to sack it off here. It's not really going to get much more value in this matchup. But it does mean I can go to Tyranitar, who is Pursuit. I do click Crunch. Idea being, this is a Surf offensive Starmie, so it should never, ever kill me, even if it's modest. So if it stays in, I will kill it. Great. Now we're opening up the game for Swampert quite a bit. As long as we can like manage the Charizard, we should be fine. And if you switch to anything, then I get chip on that as well, and getting chip on Metagross is great. I will switch to Celebi, who dies, but it does give me a relatively free switch to Swampert. I do go for an Earthquake there, and Charizard is in. Oof. Let's go Mence. They sub. They don't have Hidden Power Ice, at least, so we're in an okay spot, I guess. I will Dragon Dance because I know I can live 2 Fire Blasts, and he actually misses his first one. So this is a great spot to be in. I'm not going to get too greedy because I would need to get to +3 to kill this Metagross with Brick Break, which is kind of tragic, but that's fine. It is what it is. To try to save some Mence HP, I've just kill that Charizard early. Sacrifice the Starmie. And we're going Pert here. Now there are no more flyers, so Earthquake is a relatively free click into a lot of this team. I go to Salamence here on the Tyranitar. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but I was convinced that this could be Hidden Power Grass still, which is silly. And if I stayed in and killed this Tyranitar who went for Rock Slide, he would have been the one who looked silly. But he catches my switch to Salamence. At the very least, now I'm pretty sure this thing does not have a move to hit Swampert, and I can get my curse off against the -1 Tyranitar. I could try to curse up to survive a Choice Banded explosion from Metagross, but that's just not very realistically going to happen. He is going to go to the Metagross right now, though, and it's a 50-50. I call his Boom, and there we go. Tyranitar, you took one for the team. Starmie. We do put it in sand range with an Earthquake. And now it's up to this Blissey. What is the Blissey set? Well, it's revealed T-Wave and Wish, which makes me think that it doesn't have Ice Beam. He didn't click it there. Didn't click it there. And I can rest up. And I'm pretty sure at this point his only attacking move is Seismic Toss, so I can't get haxed out of this win here. We can just sit back. We can play this slow. In fact, maybe I'll just play the audio from this moment as my good buddy Zetz was recording it here.
Yeah, they're saying...
I'm going to say GG. Maybe he'll forfeit and we don't have to play it out.
Nice.
Yes!
Oh,
Yes!
yo!
Yes!
That's my goal.
Let's go.
That's my goal.
Let's go.
He's on top of the
world, man. Woo! All right, and that is how I made it to #1 on ladder, 1800 elo. First time I've ever done this. This was a little bit longer than I was kind of expecting it to go, but you know what, man? I deserve it. I've put a lot of work into this. You could not comprehend how much time I put into Pokemon over the past 2 years, frankly. And yeah, I don't know. It's probably not healthy. A lot of people probably should not do this. But like, this has been the culmination of a long career in Pokemon for me. I've been playing other formats before even coming to ADV, so don't get it twisted. I didn't start playing in 2024. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching if you've got this far. And thank you all to everybody who's helped me especially get to this point. I want to shout out my teammates from the Enlightened Endperts, who got to see this team in its infancy before we made it all the way here. And some of them told me that this team was kind of not good. Well, look at me now. No, I'm kidding. I want to thank Z Panther, who was a instrumental part in my growth over the last couple months here. He was tutoring me for a little while, helped me to see some things that I didn't really consider up until the point that we were working together. So thank you to Z Panther for that. Thanks to Zetz for maintaining my Discord for me. I really appreciate that. No, I'm kidding. But no, but for real, I would not have met nearly as many of the community members that I have if it weren't for Zetz. So I really appreciate that. So thank you to him. And then really big shout outs to this guy he's too humble to really like accept it. But Benji, all I do is win. If you've seen my top 10 abilities in ADV video, then you know him already, or well, you've heard of him before. He, like, DMing him, looking at scouting reports, looking at replays, like, legitimately, like, I don't even know what you would say, like the crush to my H-box. That's a crazy statement to make, but like legitimately, like the best coach I could even ask for, and cannot be stated how much he has helped me improve and how quickly he's helped me improve over the past year or so that I've been working with him. So really big shout outs to you. And then also shout outs to all the other community members of Zetscord. I love you guys especially, but I also love you guys who are still watching at this point. You just really love to hear the sound of my voice, don't you? But what's next for me? I'm gonna try to be a little bit more involved in the Smogon community. Try to earn some badges, you know. Maybe we'll get a custom avatar for Tetrafolium. But mostly I just want to give back to the community, help some players who want to learn how to play this game at a little bit of a deeper level, I have applied to become a tutor. So if you're interested in potentially getting the chance to work with me as a tutor, go sign up on the tutor forums. I can't promise that we will get matched up, but I can tell you that you are very likely to get matched up with somebody who does know a lot about the tier, whether it be Fradazi or Giraffe or somebody else who is tutoring. Maybe Z Panther. Who knows? But yeah, do that. Go check out my Rate My Team. Get the team paste from there. Go give me a like as well. And yeah, we're gonna be coming up in the world for Tetrafolium and the agency pyramids. My voice is kind of starting to go now, so I will be leaving here. Thank you all for watching, and bye-bye.